Canada was kind of left a bit flat-footed like other countries were in terms of fulfilling commitments we had made to those who'd allied with us and their families. I think we will wait and see. We know the government has committed to bringing in, I think, 40,000 Afghans and their families. So this is actually an increase from the 20,000 that was originally promised. So we will see. Hopefully, we will see those people brought over in good time and safely.
Yeah. And Canada does remain one of the forefront leaders globally when it comes to receiving immigrants and refugees historically. So to your point, Julia, we're hoping that that commitment is kept. Then in September, we watched the horrifying pictures of Haitian migrants being whipped by border agents on horseback as they crossed the Rio Grande into Texas. With all that Haitians have gone through in their own country, was the situation handled well, Greg? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a heartbreaking situation, and the images, of course, there's been a lot of, debate on, what was going on, but it's a horrible situation. I mean, these are desperate people. And, and I know we've all traveled internationally. We've seen, people that are living in these desperate situations and, families trying to find a new life. And, they were led to believe that they could, come into America. And now some of course, as you know, thousands have been returned to Haiti. Others are still like living under a bridge. It is a horrible situation. And I mean, our hearts just go out to the people. I mean, you've had a president that was assassinated. You've had natural disasters. I mean, it has been a horrendous time. And for the ones going back, what are they going back to? Poverty and brokenness. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible situation.
Calvin, what are your thoughts? How was the Haitian situation handled? Was it handled well?
I think, like Julia said, honestly, everybody's trying to do the best that they can. And at least that's our hope. We see the efforts that are made. There are a lot of opinions that we have. We're mostly armchair quarterbacks when it comes to this. But it is nice to see that there is some effort. You wish that there could be more done.
We also saw a surge of Syrian refugees come into Canada in 2015. We all remember that. But does Canada set up immigrants for success? According to the Toronto Star, between February 2020 and this past July, the backlog of permanent residence applications skyrocketed by 70%. The backlog of citizenship applications has also ballooned as well. Is this doable, allowing all of these people in? And when you put on top of that COVID-19, a global pandemic, everything that we are faced up front with. Calvin, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know if it's doable. I think that there's a lot that can be done. Obviously, we have to check privilege and we have to check what our desire would be to remedy some of these things. Organizations trying to scramble and figure out, do I take care of my own? What does that look like and feel like? Government's trying to figure out how to navigate an election and all of this, and where are we putting money? So I think the resource is there. I don't know if we as a collective, as a nation, across different faith groups, across different demographics, are really wanting to see a situation like this be dealt with in a beautiful way in our time.
What does advocacy for immigrants' rights look like, Julia, for you?
I think it means advocating for policies that are just and fair and that treat people with compassion when they're seeking refuge at our borders. I know as Calvin just said, as we look ahead to the next parliament, I know our sponsorship agreement holder partners are very concerned about that backlog. So we said 40,000 Afghan refugees will be welcomed. Well, is that going to be on top of the just under 53,000 who were already targets for 2022? So there's just this constant concern about this backlog, about the delays in bringing people over. I mean, it's a monumental task, as Calvin said, to figure out how we fulfill these commitments that are made. But I think it's really important that if we don't have the resources, we need to direct resources to this. Otherwise, the situation just keeps piling up, and we have people who have been waiting all over the world, some for quite long periods of time. So I think, it looks like honoring your commitments and sticking with them and diverting the resources that are required to actually fulfill the commitments we make.
Yeah. Greg, we have less than a minute left. I'm going to leave the last word to you. What is the church's role in this conversation?
Very important, Maggie. I've had opportunity to meet people in places like Beirut, Lebanon, from Syria, to hook them up with churches here in Canada, some families as well from Pakistan that were stuck in a refugee camp in Thailand. We've seen them come to Canada. To me, when the church is really on board, it's the best thing to do. They help acclimatize them. It just works wonderfully. Of course, every case is different, but the role of responsibility for churches and other faith groups is important, because the compassion should be there, and then the support, the volunteers, to make this thing successful and help these people that have come from traumatized places to settle into Canada.
And you've, in your role with Voice of the Martyrs, Greg, you partner with churches. And so speak about that partnership and why that is so important, that an organization as established as Voice of the Martyrs can look at boots on the ground churches and say, how do we connect when it comes to this issue?
Right. And like Voice of Martyrs officially, we don't do, the sponsorship. Our role mainly, as we try to stay focused, is emboldening, strengthening, and helping the church in countries like Nigeria, Pakistan, Afghanistan. But as a concerned Christian and as somebody that, that cares about people, I think that's something that we all need to do as followers of Christ, that we should have that compassion. So when I'm speaking to churches and talking about, the persecution going on in many nations, I will encourage churches to sponsor families. And I tell you, it transforms communities. It transforms the churches. So again, I would just say, it's important to do this. Now, Voice of the Martyrs, when it's, people that if their lives are going to be lost, there's times that we do kind of step in a kind of a low-key way. But all of us really need to step up to the plate. And I know these are difficult times. Lots of things are going on, but let's keep the compassion level up for those that are suffering.